Greetings, YouTube. This is Fragments of Memory, aka the Armchair Philosopher. And right now, I'm just reminiscing about when I came of age. I sort of came of age in the 1990s. And what's funny is the 90s was an interesting decade. I mean, we had the East Coast West Coast rivalry, we had the deaths of both Tupac Shakur and Biggie Smalls. I didn't say they were great or good as in positive, but we had some interesting times. There was the O.J. Simpson trial. There was Bill Clinton's sex scandal with Monica Lewinsky and many others. Um, there was also the Heaven's Gate cult. There was the David Koresh cult, and there was the whole Spice Girls invasion. There was even the whole Summer of the Blonde pop princesses. Britney Spears, Christina Aguilera, all the way down to Jessica Simpson and Mandy Moore, and so on and so forth. And what's funny is I was alive for all of that. I was a preteen, going into teens, and into my teens. And I remember all of that. I remember Aaliyah being alive. I remember where I was when I heard Aaliyah had died. And that was after the 90s, of course, but I remember in the 90s when Aaliyah was the big thing. She was the big budding starlet. And during this time, yours truly was immersed in a world of vintage Motown and just vintage R&B and vintage rock, and he loved going to used bookstores to find out what was in the science fiction or fantasy section. And he was addicted to Star Trek Deep Space Nine and Star Wars, and even played a little RPG. So that was what I was doing in the 90s. I wasn't going to Saints and going to the party room and getting my freak on. I was waiting for the new episode of The Tomorrow People to come on, which was a British TV show that they were showing on Nickelodeon at the time. I was sort of in my own little world of gods and angels and cosmic and supernatural entities. And as I look back, I'm grateful for the things that I went through in the 90s. Um, I also love the fact that I was involved in my high school's drama department. That helped me out. That kept me from going too deep into my own little world. I think that if I had not performed in the productions, plays, musicals, and so on that I did, I most likely would have just shut myself off in my own little world. And that's never good. That is so never good. I just thought I'd share this because, like, all these memories are coming back of the 1990s. And now every time I hear a song that was playing on the radio during the 90s, because even when I was in my own little world playing music, I mean, when I interacted with other people, the times that I did, I still listened to other music. I mean, music sort of played. I think there was a group called the Cardigans. They did a song called Love Fool. And every time I hear it, I think of when I was going to high school. And I remember a high school sweetheart of mine back then. Um, I remember me and my boys, after we get done with a session of RPGs, role playing games, we'd run down to the mall and go to the video game arcade, or we'd go see a movie. Some really good times there, man. Oh man, some real good times. It was just an interesting. I lived in interesting times, man. And of course, what was really cool about back then. I know I keep digging in my eye. I'm itching. It's these allergies in the spring, summertime. But I just have fun. I think those were fun times for me. And of course, things have changed since then. I mean, I think a couple of my homies are now fathers. They got children to raise now, and one of my homies is married. So that's a whole nother world. It's a whole nother life now. But I do remember those days, man. I remember when do I remember? Oh yeah, I remember wanting to not like the mainstream because it seemed the mainstream was just garbage. It seemed nobody played any good stuff. And now today, as I hear the music that's playing today, I wish some of that 90s music was back, ironically enough. That's kind of weird, isn't it? Even though I wasn't too much into the 90s music, I'd rather have that than what's going on now. Oh, yeah, in the 90s, Erica Badu first made her appearance onto the scene. We got a great talent in that Erica Badu. And D'Angelo, that was another good one. Great times. Man, I still remember all those times. And of course, back then, I used to think that any kid that dressed in all black was a devil worshiper. So I'm just saying, it's interesting what I thought and believed back then, as well as what I was doing back then. But the important thing is that I grew up and learned some things, hopefully at least. Well, that's just another video that I'm rambling on, of course, and just wanted to discuss just that whole aspect of the era of when I came of age. And I must say there were some really good times. Well, YouTube, you take care. Peace.